Welcome to another exciting episode of DeFi Expectations, where we cover projects in the DeFi and crypto space that defy our expectations of what crypto and DeFi are supposed to be about. And today is actually a pretty fun episode because I get to have on a good friend of mine, Stardust Miner. He is from, and they're actually pretty interesting because they enable you to earn SATS by scanning receipts through a simple little easy to use app, providing your data essentially to this blockchain network. And you earn SATs and rewards for doing so. There's referral codes to bring in other people. I'll be showing mine throughout the show to try to get as much rewards as I can, because unfortunately in my region I can't participate right now because they're focused on the United States. But they have a growing audience. They have an exciting product, and Stardust is just such a hard worker. I'm so excited to have him on today to talk with him about what they're working on. So welcome, Stardust.
Thanks, Fry. Yeah, it's great to be on the show and great to talk about Crinkl. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself to start, because you've been involved in several crypto projects. I mean, I know you back in the day when I was like slinging meme coins and nobody even knew who I was. And you were also working on what I would say is more so like social advocacy tokens. So you've always been a more serious figure to me in the space, not looking to make a quick buck, but trying to like create something meaningful in the space. So when you decided to start working with Crinkl, I thought that was particularly interesting. And I figured this must be something really exciting, and I want to learn more about what it is. So what brought you to focus your energy on a project like Crinkl?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I came into the space, a few years ago when there was a lot of different metas back then. It was more focused on NFTs. It was more focused on meme coins were just starting to get popular then. And I initially came into the space because I was excited about the technology. That's become a meme at this point. I'm here for the tech. It is, but I really was here for the tech at that point. And so when I came into it, and then I just started getting bombarded with all this speculation, and I was like, wow, this is different from what I expected the space to be excited about. And so yeah, I started becoming involved with a lot of different meme coin communities and NFT communities. And after a while, I just got a little disillusioned because I was like, well, this isn't really anything that's adding much to my life. It's more just something that don't get me wrong, it's fun. It's definitely fun to be in those communities and, get some of that cult like energy going and all that. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, it's just not what I was hoping for or looking for in the crypto space. So I had become friends with the developer of Crinkl, and when he approached me about this idea of, hey, we're going to take something that is a rewards model, in the real world, there's all these rewards model apps out there. And we're going to take that and flip it on its head and make something that can be of value to the user. And of course involve Bitcoin, which is huge for freedom and which is huge for bringing back sound money. When he said we were going to get that involved, I immediately got excited because like, well, here's something that we can actually bring to a lot of users who aren't necessarily involved with speculation, aren't necessarily involved with finance, and they can start using an app that will bring something into their lives, that not necessarily going to overtake their lives, like the way meme coins do. It's something more that they can do as like a ritual every day and still get some gains from it, still get some fun out of it. Yeah, and so that's what brought me to Crinkl, is the idea of, oh, we can do something for fun here that the average user can get involved with. The average user doesn't necessarily get involved with stable coin yield of 8% versus 6% or whatever. It's like they don't really care about that stuff. They want to get into an app that they can have fun with, and that maybe they can earn a little money from, but they also don't want to lose from. Crypto is such a such a volatile space. You know, you can either be up really big and be swimming in gains, or you can be down a lot. And personally, I've known a lot of people who are down a lot, you know, and so
Mm.
it's great to have an app here where there's not, you know, there's not really anything to lose on your end. You know, you can just get involved, have some fun, probably earn a little money. You know, it's not something where you're gonna tank hard and be like, oh, what am I gonna do now? You know, it's like, yeah, so it takes some of that gamble nature out of it, but it doesn't take the fun out of it. And that's what I think is great about Crinkle.
That's really cool. And I appreciate you also bringing up that whole idea of, I'm here for the tech, because the other, that memeable phrase we always say is, well, it's not the gains we made, but it's the friends we make along the way, right? Um,
That's
and I
right.
think when you talk about the fun of community projects, that's what I always think about. I think about being in the depths, in the trenches of like Malay Token, and being aligned with all these liberty-minded, libertarian people. You know what I mean? And realizing like I
Yeah,
don't want to dump on these guys; these are my friends. You know what I mean? Um,
exactly.
but it's also great too, like again, like you said, we had this NFT revolution, we've got the meme coins, and people are making like life-changing money every night, sometimes at the expense of others. But it also
Yeah.
took this tech, right, that's like really meaningful. Take NFTs for example, that really are a record of ownership, right? But it's like I have a project that's an NFT based project, and I don't even like to talk about the NFT component because it turns people off because of how NFTs have been used in the past, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming you probably had like a similar moment of kind of realization in working in the decentralized finance and blockchain space, where you kind of realized that maybe like something isn't quite right here. Like maybe a lot of this is just craziness. It's not like really real world utility, right? So, what was kind of like the defining moment for you when you thought, I'm going to focus on serious projects, things that are really contributing in the space? Has that always been like your focus? Did you try your hand at like these cat coins or JPEGs that would just be worth billions? Or were you always just like a serious guy? Because I seem to think like you were always a pretty serious guy, but I'm curious to hear that.
Oh, well, yeah, it's funny because when I got in here, I was serious, right? I was like, oh yeah, this is the future right here. And then I started getting in it, and I'm like, wait, I'm in these groups where they are trading thousands for cat coins, or trading thousands for art that's terrible. It's like the art was better when it was $2,000, but it was terrible when it was $2. It's like and so yeah, I mean, when I was getting into space, at first I was like, yeah, the technology is amazing, and then I started delving into it. I was like, wait a second, this stuff sucks. It's like what so yeah, I would say like for a year or two, I think almost everyone was into meme coins at some point. I mean, I'm sure a lot of the Bitcoiners on the sidelines were shaking their heads at us, but I was definitely into meme coins at one point, and just kind of getting my footing, feeling my way through it. I think it wasn't beneficial necessarily in terms of, I wasn't hoping for big gains or any of that, but what was beneficial is just seeing how the communities formed, how the marketing worked, how some coins were able to run up huge and others didn't get anything going, and it was just a ton of trial and error, and seeing how those teams formed. And yeah, it was just a I thought it was a master class in culture awareness, from these and yeah, just seeing how human psychology works when you know that nothing is of real value, but you're still running it up to a billion market cap. It's like that. There's there's a special art involved in that. And it was very good to be on sort of the inside of that and see what happened. But as to getting involved with Crinkle, after some of that, I think, yeah, so much of it was, well, I've been through one phase where there was a lot of technology involved, and where people were trying to get users based on this revolutionary technology. That didn't really work. I mean, it sort of worked. It worked with me, but it doesn't work with the average person. They don't care about what the NFT. There's the other meme out there, which is the right click save as crowd. It's like what are you talking about? You own that. I can just go on there and right click your profile and I've got it. So that didn't really resonate with the average person. The ownership of your image. I think it resonated with people, but it either didn't bring home the message, or it just wasn't there. Same thing for meme coins. It's like, oh well, the value is in the belief. You got to believe in your token, and then it'll actually go up. And it's like, well, that's very that you can do that with all kinds of things. Should I go
belief can get you in trouble, right?
Yeah, should I go out and grab my rock off my driveway and be like, all right, this is $1 billion? It's like it makes no sense. And so yeah, it brought it home to Crinkl for me because a couple reasons. One is that, okay, we can't fool ourselves into thinking anymore that that people want to be here because of revolutionary technology. We actually have to do the opposite. We have to create apps where people don't really know that they're even using this technology, right? And so you want to create an experience where they're getting Bitcoin for what they're grabbing, but you don't want them to necessarily have to dive deep into what a wallet is or what even Bitcoin is. As long as they know that it's something that's valuable, as long as they have in their mind that it's digital gold, that's all they really need to know, right? It's like, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole and talk about hashing, and we don't have to talk about why necessarily what they're getting. They could just hook up to Crinkl, scan a receipt, and then they know they're getting digital gold, move on, right? It's like it's that simple. So on the technology end, we're trying to simplify things as much as possible within Crinkl so that people can use the app just like they would any other Web 2 app, really. We don't want them to be like, oh, we're gonna dive deep and get my Degen spirit going. That's not really what Crinkl is. Now there is aspects to Crinkl where there would be, if a Degen wants to get into Crinkl, there are aspects where they can scratch that itch. There's a lot of gamified elements to it. They can climb the leaderboard. Of course, there's the idea of Crinkl points converting over into Crinkl tokens, which it could be big for degens and for people in the crypto world who want to get involved. But for an average person who just wants to save something of value, they're just going to go onto Crinkl, scan receipts, and earn Bitcoin. So yeah, there's that aspect, and then back to the other aspect, which was having something of real value. I think Crinkl is I think it can bring real value as an app, because we actually employ like revenue and revenue model, which is what Web 2 companies often do, but Web 3 often doesn't, because they kind of get a shortcut going, which is, they just launch a token, get a big crowdfunding, and then they disappear, right? And it's like they don't need a revenue model anymore, and so that's how I think we kind of that's how we're sort of dealing with those two issues that I identified immediately, which is no one cares about technology, or not that many. And then people also don't just, they don't want value out of thin air. They actually do want value, so something that actually makes sense and backs up the app or backs up the token,
That makes a lot of that makes a lot of sense to me, because I feel like what I like about Crinkl, I'm asking these questions like I'm not a user myself, so I can give you the opportunity to educate people, right, who aren't so familiar. But what I personally love about Crinkl, and hopefully I can get a lot of opportunity to show off my referral code so I can actually start getting some receipt points again, right? Since I'm not in America to be scanning receipts as crazy as everybody else. Yeah, here they go. Yeah, show that receipt code. Yeah, show that referral code. Let's do it.
Zoom in.
All right. Anyway, Zoom. Awesome. Yes, I want those referral points. But yes, like what I love is it's the perfect harmony of yes, you have tech, yes, you have blockchain elements behind it, right? But it's not friggin' boring, okay? There's not
Yeah.
this big white paper that you have to read to get on boarded and understand. You literally like just sign up, use your referral code, and you can immediately start scanning receipts and earning Bitcoin. Like it's very straightforward. There's nothing complicated to it. You have these elements like, you know, you said leaderboards and point systems and things like that. And to be honest, you know, Stardust, that's even like not super complicated and pretty intuitive, I guess, relative to other apps that we've seen. You know, I know that you guys have looked at others in this kind of receipt market, such as Fetch. You know, I think of other places you can turn crypto into things that you can use for real everyday uses, such as like bit refill, right? Like, and how you can combine all these ideas to create kind of a model that works really effectively for your user. But at the end of the day, what you've got is something that's actually relatively simple, but very effective. You know what I mean? Like the power behind it is not simple, but understanding it is. So have I basically covered it though? It's really just as simple as having a referral code and then you just sign up? I mean, is getting onboarded to Crinkl pretty easy? You want to talk a bit about like scanning receipts, any limitations, maybe some of the
Yeah.
back end tech that like prevents people from hacking the system or gaming the shit out of this? Like just whatever you'd like to share there.
Sure. Yeah. So when yeah, you talked about the simplicity, and that's another thing I'm actually passionate about in the blockchain space and in business overall, because I think that blockchain complicates things so much, and when it comes to decentralized finance, you know, that has to be part of it a little bit, because you know finances and math is complicated, you know, so so you have to complicate things a bit in that realm. But when it comes to other apps, you know, when it comes to meme coins, and when it comes to a lot of these other consumer apps that I see out there, a lot of the things are complicated. You know, they look to get they always move with trends, you know. So like a current hot thing at the moment is to speculate on things, to bet on things, right? And so a lot of apps who have nothing to do with betting or speculating will suddenly just add that, you know, as like their main feature, you know. And it's like, you can't do that, right? You need to find something that really works and that's simple, and then you need to drill that home, you know. And so I think with us, our big hook is that you earn Bitcoin for your receipts, and you know that's going to be the core action and the core feature of our app. And that's something that we really want to drill home and get across to the average person. And that's what I think will bring a lot of average people on board. And of course, when I say average, I mean extraordinary. You know, these are people that we're trying to get who don't normally come over into blockchain, and that's what we're hoping they're going to do. You know, so when a person gets a referral code, yeah, they just simply enter that referral code into the main home screen on Crinkle, and that gets them into the app. And then there's our main icon on the bottom, which is the camera icon. You just pull up your camera, you know, it accesses your camera, and you have hopefully you have a whole store of receipts somewhere. I have like a whole drawer that I that I dedicate to my receipts. And so, you know, just reach into your drawer, grab a receipt, start scanning. It has to be a receipt that is less than 2 weeks old, because we want to prioritize real-time data. And I can get a little bit into that later if you'd like. But yeah, a receipt that's less than 2 weeks old. And then you also want to just make sure you have some decent lighting when you're scanning the receipt. Sometimes we see receipts come in, you know, that are like extremely dark, or that, you know, the receipt's a little too crinkled, you know. It's like even Crinkle can't deal with it, you know. So it's like, yeah, you got to be a little bit careful on how what the quality is of how you're scanning it. But once you do that, it goes through a 3-step verification, and it's different layers of AI. And I'm not totally apt when it comes to, you know, technological back end stuff that the
Me
developer can
neither.
explain. Yeah. So, the developers explained this to me like 1,000 times, and I still get confused. But it goes through a verification process through AI, and it looks for things like you've talked about. It looks for duplicate receipts. It looks for people misspelling words. You know, it looks for people who are, aren't using the right formatting and whatever of receipts. And so it's very good at identifying fake receipts. It's very good and we also put other parameters in there of so that people, even if they did get around it, they can't go crazy. For instance, there's a limit on receipts that you can upload for a single day. There's limits on receipts that you can upload over months, that sort of thing. So yeah, we have lots of things in place that the scammers out there, and we know they're coming. We've already seen them so far, and we've caught some of that, and the verification process has caught some of that as well. But after you've uploaded and everything's verified, then it goes through. You get your points awarded, and yeah, you're ready to scan the next one. It's really as easy as that. And in terms of how you want to play it, there are different things involved. Like my strategy is there's lots of there's a lot of value in scanning your receipt every day, right? And so the way I've been playing it lately is to scan one receipt per day, because that'll keep your streak going. And right now people earn bonuses for streaks, and so there's a lot of strategizing involved. Some people upload a ton of receipts at once, and get a lot of points that way. Others will upload it over a longer period and then get a lot of points that way. But yeah, there's different strategizing, of course. If you upload a big receipt in terms of like the value of it, if you upload like a $10,000 receipt or whatever, that adds a lot of value that we've processed through our network, and so we call that, we're pumping the GMV, and so it's pretty cool because there's lots of good ways to make the Crinkl process exciting for the average user, but also make it exciting for someone who's there and on the blockchain end of things.
Interesting. And when you talk about like value of data, right? I've got a couple questions. The first question for you is pretty short, but just in terms of like creating an account, signing on with this referral code. I know that I use my Gmail, which I linked up. So would you say in a sense there's a little bit of KYC for the user, but I mean, can the email be like anonymous? I mean, I'm assuming there's still an element of that. But of course, if you redeem your Bitcoin, you would have to, when off-ramping, adhere to local standards in terms of how you claim that Bitcoin and all that. I'm just curious, like what KYC elements are inherent and how you protect data provided by the user, data that would be provided to maybe marketing companies that want to look into this receipt data to see how people are spending their money, how many Big Macs they're buying in a week. I don't know. Kind of a two-part question there, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the KYC, you can use any anonymous email. So I've used as when I've been testing the onboarding process and whatever, I created a couple alt emails to test it. Yeah, and it works great. And yeah, it is a weird thing when it comes to crypto and blockchain, because the more privacy it's almost like you have to trade off convenience for privacy more often than I would like, right? And so when we were creating Crinkl, we want this really easy onboarding and this really easy sign up, but you have to use, or at least at the moment, the standard is to use something like Privy, which we use, right? Or and so it's anonymous in the sense that but you're still signing up on a Gmail, right, and on a Gmail account. So it is close to anonymous, but of course there still is that element to it. So it's not. We're looking at different ways in the future. We know that we were actually that we were part of that whole AWS going down issue, and then Privy going down as well. And so, yeah, we were like, yeah, we should look for an alternative way for a user to onboard. So that's something we're thinking about for the future, but that's how we have it at the moment. And then when it comes to privacy with data, yeah, what all we're doing really is taking the store date and total of a receipt. So everything is anonymous. All the data is anonymized.
You're
Nothing.
not sharing email addresses anyway.
No,
Got
nothing,
it.
nothing gets shared from any aspect of the receipt except those three categories, and those three categories sort of go into this big pool, right? And so all something like a business would see from that, if they wanted access to that data, would just be how many Big Macs have gotten bought, right? They wouldn't be getting access to, oh yeah, this guy with this email was the one who bought all these, right? So they wouldn't
Good.
know that.
So we're gonna send him a coupon for 50% off his next Big Mac when he
Yeah,
buys fries and a shake, right?
yeah,
So nothing like that. Good, 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 good.
no, yeah. So yeah,
I think we've all had enough of that, so it's good to hear that you guys aren't about that.
definitely. And so yeah, and then when it comes to what businesses are buying, yeah, they're mostly looking for insights into patterns, like was a certain sale, was that in that sale, were people buying Happy Meals or were they buying Big Macs, or were they, was that, do people just go to McDonald's because they want a Diet Coke or whatever, it's like it's like what insights does that give to their business, and that's why they're going to want to buy this. Same thing that we've thought about with AI companies who want better price data, access to price data to train their language models on. If for instance, if somebody wants to know the price of a Big Mac in Indianapolis or whatever, they can go on AI can query that, search Crinkle for it, and then get a verified price for that, right? And so we want to, the price data out there at the moment is actually pretty bad. It's based on it's based on surveys, where nothing is verified at all, and or just random social media posts or just posts on the internet, and so with this, we actually have a way that we can measure and get that price data from with Crinkle, and it's all anonymized. Yeah, and so it's mainly for the user. You're just contributing those prices to this huge pool. And yeah, at some point we're hoping it'll just become a big ocean of data, and of course, people will get to own some of that through the Crinkle coin, and they'll have access to value from Bitcoin, of course, as well.
That's really cool. And it sounds like there's two incentive models you're essentially working with here. Like obviously people who provide the data are incentivized with SATS, Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then they're contributing to a database that Crinkle is managing. Now, does Crinkle then, I mean, not that this is a problem because, Crinkle has already paid you've already paid your users for providing this data. And like you said, there's not really the most accurate data with regards to some of these advertising metrics in terms of how people are spending money, right?
Yeah.
So how does Crinkle then, like, what's Crinkle's plan to sell this, I guess, to advertisers, right? If I'm trying to figure out how many Big Macs a person buys in a week, or cleaning products, or how often do they visit other types of restaurants, what are they, how many are they spending on gas per week, and how is Crinkle going to use this data to also I guess what's Crinkle's like incentive or revenue model here? How are they going to work with advertisers to leverage this data to actually be able to continue providing these SATS rewards to users?
Yeah, we've talked about this some, and I'm not the one to be the authority on the business side of things with Crinkle. I'm mostly, involved in marketing and community. That being said, I can comment a little bit on it. And what I would say is that we are going to provide so when companies, they could get involved with the app in terms of, like we've talked a lot about, providing access to products or deals with products within Crinkle. So they would go on, companies would provide something like, there's going to be a Big Mac, price index or something like that, right? And so people will go on there and specifically upload the receipts of Big Macs, so that we can get price data around the country of what, a Big Mac costs in California versus what a Big Mac costs in New York, whatever.
Like they would sponsor the Bitcoin that's given for this data, and you would have your bonuses that we've seen before. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you'd have companies putting up the Bitcoin, that would go into the Bitcoin treasury, then that would get paid out in the rewards to the user. And so we've also talked about, of course, it's still super early and we haven't launched this yet, or not even close to launching it yet, but we have talked about, how we could raise the funds for Crinkle through the Crinkle coin, which is either going to be, we haven't figured out a way to launch that yet. We're still exploring options, but basically we're thinking about using the revenue and from that, of course, to also bring in revenue into the Bitcoin treasury, so that can be converted into rewards and paid out to the user as well. But yeah, in terms of selling the data to the companies, that can be, I think, a two-way process where it's us providing data to them, but they're also providing the rewards to us, and so that all still goes back to the user.
Excellent. Yeah, I might have a screen of that I can share later, but basically from my app where like it shows on that one page that you have like plus 300 points or something for gas receipts, right? Like gas purchases, or it could be whatever, right? So literally those bonus rewards could be incentivized by a sponsor who's going to fund a treasury of Bitcoin exclusively to pay out additional SATS, additional points, whatever. Some of that treasury goes to Crinkle itself to fund operations. Some of it goes back to the users, right? Because the users are the operations in these decentralized communities, right? But we always have that push-pull of what is a business, what is a decentralized community, and how the two of them work together. And I think the best way to kind of approach that, and thank you, because like I had some kind of scripted questions for you, but we're just like, we're covering so much ground with your answers that we're kind of answering them without me having to even go down any kind of list. So I love that. But with regards to the Crinkle token, I know you guys are still figuring out tokenomics, maybe distribution models. Anytime I look at like distribution models, I'm like a big fan of Badger DAO and what they did to onboard a community overnight, right? With the way that they launched. And I would think if you could obviously have people who are contributing to the ecosystem be Crinkle token recipients, right? Because you've got to incentivize actual participation to the app, right? You could also do some kind of like airdrop to various communities that you think might be interested in receipts or interested in Bitcoin. Like I've talked to you guys about this before. I think BitRefill would be a great audience. If you had wallets that you could see through on-chain data were connected to BitRefill, right? This is an app where people are using crypto to buy gift cards. I talked about this with my friend, in America, because we're always looking for tax mitigation strategies. And he had one that was pretty interesting, but he was talking about how, let's say he wants to go to Home Depot and spend $1,000. Well, think about this. You withdraw $1,000 through your crypto wallet. You're supposed to claim that on taxes. So you pay 30 to 40% on that. So you're looking at now like what, 70% or $700, right? And now you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. Well, you can go to BitRefill and you can just buy this directly, right? It's apparently non-taxable, or they don't collect data in the same way depending on what you're doing. I don't know. This is not financial advice. Anyway, the point is, you can go onto this app and you can buy $1,000 worth of Lowe's gift card, for example. example, they might give you a 10 or 20% bonus just for doing this, right? So your $1,000 becomes $1,100 rather than becoming $700 for you have to claim it the same way. And then we talked about now you take your receipt and you go to Crinkl and you earn some Bitcoin for it. I mean, that's just golden to me. But the idea of targeting these select communities, right, with maybe airdrops or different ways to capture their intention, to me could be a way of onboarding the community and getting real people who would leverage the token for Crinkl's benefit to participate. But that's just an idea, and I think we've talked about this before, privately. But what I kind of wanted to go from there was a question I have, which is so Crinkl token. I know that you guys are still in the early phases, but if you were, once you're launched, how does that look? Is it just a token to speculate on the value of Crinkl? Does it come with benefits such as reward multipliers, whatever that means? Does it mean something in terms of I can use my token to vote in governance on certain aspects of Crinkl? Can you lay any of that out for me yet?
Yeah, I can. That was hilarious, by the way, what you were talking about with bit refill, and then going into Crinkl. It reminded me a lot of like a DeFi protocol, but what we were dealing with is gift cards and receipts, right? And that's what I'm talking about. Like when I say that, oh yeah, people who are into DeFi or into blockchain can get into these apps, right? You can make them as complicated as you want. But the average user doesn't need to know any of that, right? But it's so cool to have that option to go all degen on it, and like increase your gains. It's very cool. But yeah, so when it comes to the token, I think what we're planning on, or it's things that we're trying to examine is like just like you talked about. How do we get this token to be a defining aspect of the app, without getting into the way and without confusing people, and also, what can we provide in terms of what's going to get them to buy it rather than to just receive the Bitcoin, and so we were actually exploring options on offering that choice to the user, as sort of a do I want a safe play by getting Bitcoin, or do I want a degen play by converting my points over into Crinkl coin? So that would provide a gaming aspect to the user, where it would be sort of a tough decision on their part, on what do I do here? Do I play it safe and get what I know is digital gold, or do I want to go with the sort of the ownership of the business aspect and get my Crinkl coin in? And so, like you said, there's a lot of interesting ways that we could distribute this. I particularly like what you brought up about, airdropping communities that don't necessarily get airdropped all the time, or specifically targeting them, I think would be a really interesting idea, because those types of people would be the ones who immediately get what Crinkl would be trying to do. And so a lot of times, I think airdrops kind of fail because they get all these communities involved who either didn't know what the product even was that was getting airdropped, or they are communities that are too separate in identifying with it. It's like sometimes you'll get like this meme coin dropping to Ethereum maxis, these ancient wallets from 2020 or whatever, and those are people who don't care at all about what this new meme coin is, and so of course they're just going to go ahead and sell it and whatever and move on, but or not even engage with it, and so it really is about, when it comes to airdrop, we floated that idea before, and it really is about finding the right communities. Personally, I think so far from what we've received from communities so far, I would say that Bitcoiners actually are very open to Crinkl and seem like a great crowd for us to consider that. So yeah, that's a great idea, I think, with Bit Refill. And then when it comes to tokenomics and what Crinkle offers a user. Yes, so there will be a boost. What we've come up with so far is that there will be a boost for people who own the coin. So what that would look like is you would get a boost in terms of what your Bitcoin reward is. So for instance, if you have a 1x, if the normal person has a 1x boost of Bitcoin when they scan their receipts, if you earn a certain amount of Crinkle coin, you could get 1.2x boost, or you could get 1.5, all the way up, to a bigger number based on the amount of Crinkle coin you have. And that could be a really cool way of just holding something and then having an immediate return based on the Bitcoin that you get back. So it'd almost be a little bit like a staking, mechanism where you're getting Bitcoin back, more Bitcoin, that is. And of course, there will be governance involved as well. Yes, so we floated the idea of the people who hold Crinkle coin will be in on decisions such as, what brands do we want to get involved? Who we want to sponsor the next Bitcoin revenue. And I think that could be actually pretty important, because a lot of times, when it comes to governance, it's sort of boring. It'll be like, where do we want to deploy this NFT revenue from? What other NFT project do we want to buy or whatever? It's like,
do you want the percentage to be 0.5 or 0.67, and it's complex math? It's like, oh God, shoot me.
yeah. So it's like, who wants to get involved in that? That in fact, that would be a reason for me not to get it. I don't want to be in on those decisions. But in terms of like what brands you want to get involved, that's something I could actually get in on, right? It's like I want to get In and Out involved or something. It's like I want to get some brands that I'm excited about in there, and so that's why I think this model in terms of it would be exciting for people, because it's stuff that actually impacts their daily life, unlike a lot of these other governance models where it's just something that's more Web3 driven that people don't know necessarily stuff about. Of course, we can get Web3 projects involved in there as well. I know there's a lot of different Web3 projects that are utilizing marketplace models, and they are leveraging products and stuff like that. So we're definitely open to that as well. But yeah, those are a couple early use cases we've thought of for the Crinkle coin, and we've also thought about Crinkle coin and boost to points as well, not just Bitcoin rewards, but also boost to the points that you can then convert over to tokens later. And we've also thought of ways to incentivize longer term holding, so that boost goes up the more you hold, stuff like that. Yeah, so we're approaching this. You and I've talked about privately, and the developer as well, about how we're hoping to gamify this as much as possible. Make it so the average user who is accumulating Crinkle coin is wondering how best to use it, or how to strategize it. And I think that can add a good element of gaming to it, and it can add an element of kind of being your own CEO with what to do with these Crinkle coins. And so that's how we're approaching it so far.
Well, I love it. And you also answered a question that I had, which is about if the token or the community would have any role in who actually becomes those sponsors for the product. So you answered that for me. And I think the way that you guys are considering it with the token is really innovative and cool, because it makes governance meaningful and like not boring,
Thanks.
Yeah. And something else too, like I love when free market principles govern the direction of a project. Sometimes I'd even say when free market principles govern morality, right? Because I believe that when blockchain and DeFi is involved and we actually have free money in play and people are actually making decisions with money that is theirs, really, truly theirs, right? I think that we actually get to see a free market operate in the way that it's supposed to, which is actually a deflationary type of model, right? But but it's interesting because, you know, I think of, like, I say morality, right? Because I think of this particular question. It's like, what if I saw an opportunity, right? And I pitched it to the community and I said, hey, Marlboro cigarettes, they want to know some data on people smoking throughout the United States, how many cigarettes they're purchasing, what time, whatever, is more cigarettes being smoked on certain days of the week. I don't even know. You can just figure out what that might look like, right? Based on
Yeah.
somebody who's a heavy smoker and knows what kind of data those guys would want, right? I could
Yeah.
pitch this to the community, and there would be some members of the community who would probably be like, well, you know, this is a good opportunity. We could actually charge them a lot to contribute to a Bitcoin treasury, and it would mean substantial growth for Crinkl, huge actual like use case of a major like company, a major product, like actually like using our data for advertising, right? But then
Yeah.
you'd also have people on the other side who said, well, do we want Crinkl to be associated with smoking? Are we going to put a little receipt out there with a little smiling face, but he's got a little cigarette coming out and he's blowing smoke? I mean, come on, guys, like what are we doing? What have we lost ourselves here? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I would love that debate. I would love to see that. I hope it happens. It would make me so happy, just the memes that would come out of it. But it would also be like, besides the joke, the humor of like how the joy it would fill in my heart to see that, it's the idea of like actually seeing, like I just said, something meaningful come out of governance, where people could look at things not just from the perspective of, well, we can make some money for our audience and incentivize our users, incentivize Crinkl, create some growth strategy for the future, but it's also like letting people play a part in the world we want to create. Do we really want to give our data to someone who's going to use it to kill people? Like, kind of literally, you know what I mean? It's their choice, you know what I mean? It's free market.
Yeah.
Let people sell what they want, let people smoke what they want, whatever, of course. But, you know, do we want to contribute to that? It's a decision you have to make suddenly. And I think that that's really cool and something unique. I don't often hear, like, when I talk with projects about what they're doing, about it actually having like a real use case. And we see this all the time. We see applications that are created with solutions in mind, right? These developers that are excessively focused on a product that solves a problem that frankly doesn't exist, right? And they'll spend like years of time, millions of dollars maybe, like trying to get something built, and maybe nothing comes of it at the end because they don't think to their user in the end, like, how is this relevant to the user? And to me, like, Crinkl is just incredibly relevant to the user. Like, you guys have created a product and you're part of a team that's actually building something that's meaningful, that people are going to want to use and contribute to, and they actually can meaningfully contribute. To that end, you know, we talked a little bit about Badger DAO. I think entities like that, you know, they were all about bringing Bitcoin to DeFi. I think that is a great audience of libertarian Bitcoin-minded people who would probably be very open to something like this. And I'm sure that there's lots of other Bitcoin communities as well, and even just anyone in DeFi and blockchain who's trying to benefit from like putting their data to work, right? Being able to earn Bitcoin is actually really interesting, I think, from just providing something as normal as receipt data. And something I learned from Badger DAO as well, and this is really interesting, and I will tie this back to Crinkl, but they were such smart people, and it was such an exercise, like such a beautiful learning experience to be a part of that project, because there were such brilliant people on board. And I remember at the time there were people who were pushing in community governance for this kind of buy and burn model, right? So they were talking about buying the Badger token and burning it, right? Because we think, oh, if the supply goes down, number go up, right? And I mean, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, I mean, but like, you know, I don't see people burning money in the streets to try to make the inflation stop, right? So like, clearly there must be a better way, you know, and that's just my simple way of joking about it with the economic literacy that I have, which is probably more than most, but still could be better. I think we all could learn more about economics. But like what I loved is what was proposed by somebody from this team was actually a buy and make model. Okay. So the idea that you would, when you had certain types of gains or whatever, that you would actually you would buy the token and make it part of the treasury. Maybe the token goes down in value, but the treasury is consistently buying the token, so the Crinkl token, if you were, to make it a part of the treasury rather than just burn it. Okay, it's out of circulation. Tell the community so they know that suddenly their token's worth more, I guess, right? Instead, we've added it to the treasury, and now we can do something with it. And it was like this whole article about why that makes more sense than just burning the token. So I talk about this because to tie it back to Crinkl, right?
Yeah.
If you guys had a big gain in Bitcoin, right? And this Bitcoin is part of your treasury, but maybe the Crinkl falls a little bit lower as a historic trend. Maybe you use some of that Bitcoin to buy up some of that Crinkl. Additionally, this would give people kind of a gamified model if they were able to choose, right? They can either be paid in Bitcoin or they can be paid in Crinkl token. Well, depending on the opportunity in the markets, they might choose one or the other. And if you have the treasury periodically making the token more a part of it, at times when there's been a drop or a time when Bitcoin has a gain, because Bitcoin and Crinkl token at this point, I would assume would be part of your treasury. It creates a really interesting model where somebody smarter than me who could manage this effectively, and the community playing a fair role in it as well, I think you would have a very interesting dynamic there. Is that something you're kind of like talking about with regards to like the kind of governance action that could take place with this token?
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about how the dynamic between Crinkl coin and Bitcoin quite a bit, and when Crinkl coin is dipped, you want to maybe the people want to get some Bitcoin, and the opposite might be true, where if Crinkl's on a big time high, you might want to accumulate more Bitcoin at that point, when it comes to governance, I think that was such a great point that you brought up about Marlboro. I would also love to have that debate, because I think that there would be a lot of discussion involved in countering points there, and they both make sense, and so when you have a lot of Crinkl coin holders who would be involved in that discussion, I mean, that puts you right in the middle of actually being part of a business, being a business stakeholder, which I think is what governance at the end of the day should be about. It should put you in the role of somebody at the board meeting. It should be putting you in the most important decisions for that business. And so that's why I think something like having that decision about who the brand should be, or what we should do with the Bitcoin, what we should do with the excess Bitcoin and the treasury, all those discussions should be had with the Crinkl coin holders. And so, I think governance will be a huge aspect of this, because I don't think governance makes really any sense. I mean, it does a little bit, but it doesn't make that much sense for these projects who don't have a revenue model, it doesn't make sense to use a one-time gain from a treasury. It's like you're basically just arguing on which way would be best to gamble it. It's like with this model, though, it's like there's revenue coming in, and we have to decide what the best way is to utilize that revenue. And so that's why, to me, it's more of a business model in which the governance for the users makes sense. I wanted to touch on something you brought up, though, when it comes to data being value, because data is, I would make the argument that data these days is becoming money, but it's kind of this silent money that no one talks about, right? It's like it's just being sold in this sort of underground marketplace that's abstracted away, and it's like what happened to all this data? It's like, well, yeah, it's being bought, and it's being sold, and it's being transacted all around it, and no one knows what's happening with it, right? And so that's what Crinkl is doing, is that it's bringing some of that abstraction into play here, and people are, and we've often gotten the message, people don't even get it. They're like, what are you talking about? Why is my receipt valuable? It's like, well, it's valuable if you just didn't know it was, and so the companies and big businesses know that for a long time, and so yeah, data definitely is, as Tolley and others have put it, it's like digital oil, and so I think what Crinkl is doing is it's giving the user to own some of that, to get a piece of that pie, without having to do so much work, or having to work your way up into a business. It's like once you hold Crinkl coin, you're already in on the game. Once you start scanning your receipts with Crinkl, you're already in on that game, on that data game. And so and unlike a lot of businesses where data and how you buy or sell data, or how you reward your users, unlike other businesses where that is really abstract, and no one can actually figure out what's happening there. With Crinkl, we put that in terms of where we reward users and how we verify the data. We actually put that on Solana, on the blockchain, as a hash, so that people know that that's the amount of points they got. They know that's the amount of Bitcoin they've got. And so that data isn't just being sold, or that they aren't just being rewarded under the table and not knowing where that's coming from. It's actually happening on the blockchain, and you can see it in real time. And so that's what I think is something that's really valuable about Crinkl, is that it's bringing data. It's sort of bringing data out of this underground marketplace into the real world that everybody can utilize and be a part of.
I think that's wonderful, and I love too how you'd never know it. Like, you're earning Bitcoin, you're earning BTC with with uh, with providing this receipt data. You're earning SATS, right? But you really don't even have to see that. You don't have to really see that that's even happening on the back end, right? It's literally like, just you wouldn't even know it, right? You wouldn't even know that SATs are even being involved, unless you want to know that you're earning them, but you don't have to sign a transaction or something like that, some weird system, or you're not waiting for a confirmation. You just literally scan the receipt, you get your SATs, it's done. You see some points add up. It's very simple. Is there a reason you guys chose Solana versus other chains that are pretty quick finality or low gas fees? I've become a big advocate for Stellar recently. Any reason for Solana particularly?
I know at the time, when I and the developer were talking about it, we picked Solana for a couple of reasons, mainly like what you talked about, the speed of it, and we talked about what it's going to look like to scale. We're hoping for millions of users, right? And so to scale that and see all those receipts flowing in very quickly and then being put on chain, we need something that's very fast but also can scale to a big amount. And so Solana fit that bill. We also thought, well, with Solana, there's also already a really big built-in community that we can tap into as well. So I would say those were the 2 or 3 biggest aspects. Of course, we're always open to more, and integrating more. We're currently looking into integrating Lightning Network, for instance, for Bitcoin. And so we also have the CBBTC, which is the Coinbase Bitcoin. So we are integrating other protocols into Crinkl for sure. But the base of it, and getting that those receipt rewards and the point rewards is right now currently being on Solana, and it's working well so far. We haven't integrated Solana just yet, but we've created the infrastructure where it should be pretty smooth to integrate Solana with it.
So would you say right now it's still like in a test environment? I mean, people can use it and earn real sats, right? But it's not like
Yeah,
officially on the blockchain yet. Is that what you're kind of saying?
that's right. Yes.
Okay.
So it's still, I would say, yeah. We've me and the developer have talked about it. I'm like, are we still in pre-alpha or is this alpha? So yeah, it's still extremely early. We haven't integrated Solana chain yet. Yeah, there's lots coming up that we're excited about. That I tend to stay away a little bit from roadmaps just because I've had as a blockchain user you tend to have worse experiences with roadmaps than good ones at this point. And
Because everyone's always making deadlines on time, right? Like we're really known
yeah,
for that.
yeah, definitely. The Web3 deadline is elusive here, and so
Soon, TM,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, so what we're looking at though is Solana integration is what we're prioritizing, and Bitcoin payouts. Those are the two things I would say that we're really focused on at the moment, because once people actually do see that Bitcoin flowing in, I mean, it's going to be huge, I think. And that's going to take our app from something that I think is, oh, this is a cool idea, to, oh, I want everyone to know about this because I'm getting Bitcoin. It's like that's what it's going to take. And of course, we are getting Bitcoin already. Like all those sats that we've been earning so far, that's definitely going to be rewarded in that amount once we get those live. So to anybody who's using it at the moment, I would definitely encourage people to get in on this as early as possible, because the points and the sats that you're accumulating right now are definitely going to convert, and you're going to see that in your wallet once we integrate those. So it's a huge opportunity for everyone. I know I've seen the leaderboard, and that there's pretty impressive that people are stacking right now. So it's great. And then yeah, I think down the line, we're also hoping you've touched on how it's prioritized in the USA right now. Down the line, we're definitely hoping to expand internationally, because I think that'll be a huge community to tap into, and also get international brands involved. I think would be huge. So we want to do that as well. And other things down the line is, yeah, we're wanting to integrate with brands. We want to get some of this revenue model that we've talked about. We want to get Bitcoin missions live, to where we can involve not just big businesses who are sponsoring the Bitcoin treasury, but also local businesses. I think Crinkl has a huge opportunity that a lot of blockchain projects and Web3 projects miss out on, which is integrating local areas, because once you get local businesses involved with Crinkl, they're going to be excited about something that they might be able to integrate into their business that isn't normal, and that they can add in some users and also get some insight into their own business, that they might not normally get. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the community that comes from prices. I know people are always, I don't know about you, but when I when I talk to my family, they're always saying stuff like, "Oh man, I got the best prices at Trader Joe's," or "I got the best prices at Walmart," or whatever, or Aldi. It's like, man, if you can get some of that price talk involved in a community who's also holding the token of that, it's like, I think that's a way to get community involved that isn't so, we're not so abstract, and we're not just spamming all day, price go up, price go up.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is something where it's actually community involved with this. Oh, let's find the best prices in Los Angeles, and so that community then has a mission, and they're actually involved with something that they can all get excited about and earn Bitcoin at the same time, and help their bags for Crinkle coin at the same time, right? So there's all these different dynamics where the community can really form around and get something that they're excited about. But yeah, those are all things that are happening that we're working on right now. We're also looking into getting a full app on the Solana Seeker phone, which I think would be a great way to use Crinkle, because then you'd have its own native app functionality within a Seeker. And then yeah, those are, I would say, yeah, those four things are what we're really focused on at the moment. And yeah, 4 or 5 things. And then we're hoping to snowball from there.
Wonderful. And question about money. Are you guys looking for investors? Have you approached any angels or anything like that? What's that look like, if you're able to speak on it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're open to multiple ways. So we have reached out to angels and gotten some good interest from there, and so we're hoping to raise on that end. We're also looking on, like I mentioned, we're looking on ways to launch with the Crinkle coin. So yeah, we're sort of looking at multiple different opportunities there, but yeah, definitely open to talk on that end. So anyone watching or anyone wanting to get involved, just send me or Fry a DM, and to try to get in on an early phase of Crinkle. That'd be great.
Wonderful. That was pretty much, I mean, my last, like, probably serious question before we need to go into a few fun ones and then wrap. I guess, where do you see, or where would you like to see Crinkle in the next year, the next 3 years? Like, it doesn't have to be a solid roadmap, but like, what is, like, as a major contributor to Crinkle, at the end, always a community member. We're all part of the community, but like, what do you want to see, or what do you expect to see from Crinkle in the coming months, years?
So the rewards app and the rewards model that's out there right now is huge. So you have these really big products like Fetch and Ibotta.
Fetch.
They're capturing a lot of the market value for rewards apps, and I think Crinkle can eat into that, definitely. And the way that we can do that is to capture a lot of the Web3 crowd that Fetch and Ibotta are not able to reach, right? They don't have anything like Bitcoin integrated. They don't have anything like, they don't know what Solana is, right? They don't have any of these models in place to where they can capture Web3 crowd like Crinkle can. So we're hoping to start there, snowball from there. We're hoping to bring on lots of users who do not normally get into blockchain, who might be the types who want to save money. They might be just create a little Bitcoin savings account for themselves. So that's what they're scanning their receipts for. So yeah, we're hoping to scale to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of users. That's our plan. And we hope that will sort of have a growth. We hope that growth can fuel the Bitcoin treasury, to where then we can be paying out a bigger receipt bonus than what most of these other receipt apps do. So they're paying really micro transactions or micro money for what you're getting on your receipts. We're hoping to raise that significantly, and we're doing it in Bitcoin, not just in fiat. So yeah, that's what we're hoping to do, and we're hoping to get some big brands involved. And down the road, like you said, 2 to 3 years out, we're hoping big brands get involved. We're hoping that Crinkle Coin is where people want to go to own a piece of the pie and get in get in as an owner of their data and as an owner of the Crinkle Coin. And yeah, that's where I see this project 2 or 3 years out. I think it's going to be a tough road to get there, but we're all up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everyone's trying to get their piece of the pie, right? That's a really popular expression amongst me and my friends,
Yeah.
So I guess I'll kind of come down to some fun ones, just kind of related to the nature of Crinkle, and like the idea of this receipt you shove into the back of your pocket, and it's like useless for most purposes. No one knows how to make this actually valuable data into anything meaningful, which is really great about Crinkle, right? But and fun about the name as well. So what would you say, like paper receipts or digital receipts? What do you find more annoying to deal with?
Digital receipts.
Yeah.
I can't handle stuff that clutters up my email. It's like
Yeah.
it's like I'd
You'd
much
rather have
rather just
physical clutter.
yeah. Right. I'd rather just have a receipt drawer and be done with it. It's like
Awesome. All right. Next one. All right. So I know the answer to this. You're going to probably hate me for asking this. But what's your favorite meme coin you secretly believe in?
oh, yeah, what that is. We that'll be U.S. debt. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, we got there's I mean it's just it blows my mind every day watching the debt clock, right? And so you go on and watch the debt clock and it's going up billions per hour. I mean, what is it
Mhm.
like? The last I checked, it was like 7 billion per day, I think, or something like that. And so, yeah, I mean, we need something that, in terms of a meme coin, what is a meme coin about? Well, a meme coin is memeing something and then bringing it into the forefront, right? So it's bringing it to people's attention. That's what memes really are about. And so, that's why I think a meme coin of the debt is actually meaningful, and is worth creating real change with, because we have this snowballing out of control spending and fiscal irresponsibility happening in the U.S. government, and so to have something that actually calls into that mind and can bring that out into the public and say, hey, there needs to be a change, and for holders to get involved with. I mean, U.S. debt just makes a ton of sense as a meme coin to me. It always has.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, it's the irony too, and I think that's why it's such a great meme of the people who are responsible for our money can't
Yeah,
stop printing it. The
I
people who
know.
are responsible for our credit should have the worst credit in the world. The people, to bring it back to Crinkle, the people responsible for our data do not do a good job protecting it or paying us for providing it. So, I mean, I see how this
100%.
all comes together for sure. Um,
Yeah.
um, if Crinkle could partner with any app or product, what's the dream collab? Is it Marlboro? Are you more of a Camel Man, Stardust? Do you prefer native spirits? I think is what they're called, like something with less tar in it. Would that be more ethical? Or I want to get into that debate one day because I know someone's going to be like, well, should we even partner with Coca-Cola? Because what about the obesity epidemic and how many
Oh,
people
I
that can't buy
know.
hamburgers? Oh my god. But yeah, who would be your
Yeah.
ideal partner for Crinkle?
Oh man. So just speaking to myself, I guess the ideal partner would be the one that I upload the most receipts of, and the grocery store that's like extremely close to me is Whole Foods, so I probably upload the most Whole Foods receipts. So if we had a partnership with Whole Foods, I'd be happy about that. But
I like Whole
in,
Foods.
in terms of actually the one that I see, the store that gets uploaded the most that I see coming through is actually probably McDonald's. So there you go. Should we partner with it, yeah. So I think McDonald's would be a dream partner for many of the Crinkle community at this point. And yeah, we've shared some stuff on our Crinkle coin page, our official page, about like, doing some McDonald's memes and stuff like that incorporates. So, yeah, I mean, that's such a huge community. Imagine McDonald's, or yeah, like you're showing on Steak and Shake. Imagine these communities, having something to do with Crinkle, and those communities. I mean, that's such a huge community that could scan their receipts and start using Crinkle. It's amazing to think about those communities becoming involved.
Yeah, I mean, the only receipt data I've lately been able to scan has been from places like McDonald's because being an international store, those
Yeah.
receipts tend to get scanned through, even if I'm buying from a restaurant in Georgia. And my God, like how cheap it is to get like a Big Mac here. My God, it'll blow your mind. But I've tried to stop eating there because I'm like, I'm in this foodie capital of the world, right? I can eat the
Yeah.
best quality food and I'm going to McDonald's. Like it made me feel like an idiot to do it, but but I still love my McDonald's every once in a while. It's still the best like hangover cure around.
That's
But
right.
Last one, complete the sentence. Bitcoin will finally go mainstream when?
People realize its value.
I think that's true. I mean, it's starting to already go mainstream too, in a way, isn't it? I mean, it's becoming.
I mean, it's so mainstream compared to anything else out there. I would say, like if I was to like, most of my family is not involved in Web3 at all. But if I was to bring up Bitcoin, they all know immediately, what Bitcoin is. But if I was to bring up Solana, they'd have no clue, And so it's like there is such a huge bar, I think, between Bitcoin and everything else right now. And the more and there's and credit to them, because a lot of the Bitcoiners focus on education, they focus on economics, they focus on finances, and that's such a great message to drill home. It's such, Bitcoin is such a contrast between that and fiat money, and it's so clear, like when they put that and continually bombard that message, which is true, then everyone knows what's going on. It's almost like being a Bitcoiner these days is being the new rebel or being the new anti-government. And it's like that's such a crowd to tap into, and it really makes sense. And that, yeah, like you said, I think, if anything has gone mainstream from Web3 or crypto, it's got to be Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. No, I love it. I love you kind of describing it as a kind of counterculture movement. I was on a date here with this woman from Georgia, and it was funny because I was having to translate some things because she speaks a little bit of English, but I was trying to explain the term counterculture to her, and it was just hilarious because she's like, "You're against the culture?" I'm like, "Well, sometimes the culture is bad." And what do you mean the culture is bad? And I'm like, let me explain to you. So I'm like talking about things like debt. I'm talking about like all kinds of societal problems, and it exists everywhere, right? But like, America's got its share of problems for sure, and the debt is a very glowing, glaring example of that. I can't really say glowing because it's like a big pile of crap. You know what I mean? It's pretty disgusting. It's a blight on the country for sure. But I mean, when you look at, if you're a society of debt and you recognize that fiat is loaned to everybody, with a debt being owed back that can essentially never be repaid. Not to mention, you have these people that are trying to govern your industry who are wastefully spending every day, putting their own citizens into debt, using their taxpayer money like their personal piggy bank. It definitely makes you want to be counter to whatever the hell that is. And I definitely agree that Bitcoin and what we're doing in the realm of decentralized finance is a beautiful way to be part of a counterculture movement. And I love that Crinkl is incentivizing people to take back control of their data through their receipts and earn some Bitcoin from it. I think that's pretty freaking awesome. And it was just amazing to have you on today, Stardust, to talk about this, because I think this is a great example of exactly what we're looking to accomplish here with DeFi expectations, right? Like we talk about things like bridging assets to other networks, but do we talk about bridging people, right? And, it's the friends we make along the way, but what does that mean? And how do these applications that we create and are building together actually like fulfill a part of our daily lives? And sometimes projects just come around that defy our expectations of what that all is supposed to mean. And I definitely think Crinkl is an example of that. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks so much, Fry. I really enjoyed it. And anytime.
Awesome. Anything else you'd like to share?
Just scan those receipts. Go on Crinkl and scan them.
Sounds good. And I'll make sure that everybody uses my referral code so I get lots of activity as well. Even though I can't scan as much as I'd like to, I will get all the referral rewards. So thank you again for coming out, Stardust, and thank you everybody for watching.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.